No Name and Alex here from the Gaming Channel, and welcome to TGC Top Tens. Today's episode is the top 10 most useless items in the Binding of Isaac Rebirth.
At number 10 we have the Butter Bean. Its pickup quote reusable knockback sums up the item pretty nicely. Though it does recharge for 4 seconds, the knockback is so weak it's useless to anybody who can maneuver around enemies well enough. It's only useful if enemies are closing in on you and you're really desperate.
Here at number 9 we have the Bean and the Black Bean. Now we group these items together because they're basically the same. The Bean, when used, will poison all enemies one tile away from you in any direction, and only takes 1 room to recharge. The Black Bean is similar, however it activates whenever an enemy touches you. Now these items aren't exactly the absolute worst to have, but the rate at which they damage the enemies around you is piss poor. Usually if I get this as my first item, I just restart.
Coming in at number 8, we have Mom's Bottle of Pills. As the pickup quote states, it's a reusable pill generator. How about this item really depends on how lucky you are, to be honest. You can get great pills, but most of the time, I find myself getting the bad ones. Some people may like this item, but if you don't feel lucky, just skip over it.
At number 7, we have Flush. This item turns all non-boss enemies in the room into poop. Now you're probably thinking, wouldn't that make the game much easier? Well, you'd be full of shit. This item takes a whole 6 rooms to recharge and doesn't affect bosses in any way, so it adds virtually no advantage to your run through and only hogs your item spot.
At number 6 we have Pageant Point. This one is one of my personal favorites. All it does is spawn 7 random coins around Isaac when you pick it up, and most of the time you only get pennies. You only get a nickel or a dime if you're lucky. It only becomes useful when you pick up money equals power. Although still, if you see this item, I recommend you curl up in the corner and cry with your pink crown instead of continuing.
Next at number 5 we have Monster Manual. This item, when used, spawns a random familiar that stays with you only for that room which you used it in. Now familiars are generally pretty useless unless you get lucky and get a good one, but this item handicaps them even more by limiting them to 1 room, adding a 3 room recharge period. Once again, unless you get incredibly lucky, this item just isn't worth it.
At number 4 we have the Poop. This item, when used, spawns a pile of poop. That's it. I mean, you can try and make it useful if you want by getting the petrified poop, but even then it's not likely that it will help. If you see this pile of crap, dump it.
For number 3 we have the item Toa Port. Now all Toa Port does is teleport you to a random room on that floor. Like the poop, it's pretty much completely useless, so in the end, unless you're trying to find the I am error room or trying to get out of a cursed room unharmed, just leave it behind.
Coming in at number 2 for another one of my favorites, we have the Notched Axe. Anybody who's played the Binding of Isaac knows what the Notched Axe is, and pretty much everybody hates it. It takes 3 rooms to recharge, and when used will allow you to break any rocks in the room that you use it in by walking into them. It will also allow you to break through walls into the secret rooms. This item is way better than its counterpart in the first game where you could only break 1 rock, but it's still pretty bad. Unless you have the blue map letting you see where all the secret rooms are, you're pretty much stuck just breaking rocks. Overall, skip the item.
Before we go to number 1, here are some dishonorable mentions. We'll start with the familiars. Most of the familiars are pretty weak, especially since you only get 1 if any at all during your playthrough. The worst ones are probably Brother Bobby and Sister Maggie that only shoot regular tiers. However, if you manage to get multiple in one run, you can make a nice familiar army, which can sometimes even fight the enemies for you depending on the familiars you get.
Our last of its honorable mentions are the different types of flies in the game. There are 3 fly items that you can get, and they're called Halo Flies, Disadmiration, and Forever Alone. Forever Alone and Disadmiration are pretty much the same. They will orbit around you and attack any enemies they touch, while Halo Flies will orbit close to you and destroy any incoming projectiles, acting as a sort of shield. They may not be the worst and can help you in some cases, but you can't really rely on them too much for a playthrough. They're still not bad enough to get on the list though.
Alright, the number 1 most useless item in the Binding of Isaac Rebirth is Kamikaze. This item basically turns your character into a suicide bomber. Now this item has no recharge time, so I suggest you use that to your advantage by just killing yourself with it as soon as you get it. Not only does it waste hearts and not do much to other enemies since you literally have to slam into them to do damage, you can just use bombs as a much better alternative.
Hey everyone, we hope you enjoyed the video.
If you play the Binding of Isaac too, type what your most hated items are below.
Anyway, I'm No Name.
And I'm Alex.
We'll see you next time.